Welcome back to another episode of the At the Pylon podcast. Alongside Chandler Betts, my name is Nick Antonakas. Chandler, the regular season for the New England Patriots is over. Patriots lose to the New York Jets this past Sunday in the blizzard. You were there.
I
Why don't
was.
you walk us through, I guess, on our first moments here of the podcast? How was the game atmosphere?
It was surprisingly not as bad as I thought it was going to be. I had so I was freezing. I have pretty good cold resistance, so I was fine, but it was so cold. I was my original seats because it wasn't obviously sold out. My original seats were literally the last row, uh, up at like the 40-yard line, on the not TV side, and we ended up just moving down to still the upper bowl section, but the very bottom of it at the 50, which is personally one of my favorite seats just because I can see the whole field. I can see what's happening. It's kind of
It
like
is
having the all
nice.
22. It was lovely, but it was really cold. My left butt cheek was so cold throughout the course of that game. My thighs were so cold. And I had a lot of weather gear on, but the atmosphere, it was good. There was some booing of the referees and of the team.
Yeah.
Um, Very interesting. A lot of a wide variety of jerseys. There was a number 41 Miles Bryant jersey. There was there were a lot of Matthew Slater jerseys. Shout out. A lot of Drew Bledsoe jerseys, myself included.
Nice.
Um, what were some other ones? Lawyer Malloy representation, Richard Seymour. A lot of really random ones, and it was a nice little variety, kind of
It
showing that we
was
don't have
because it
any
was the
good
Hardo
players.
fan game. That's why nobody else is trucking out on that. If
It's
you're
true.
if you're a generic fan,
That is true. But it
shout out
was it was a
Chandler.
good atmosphere. Yeah, shout out. It was a good atmosphere. I was very happy to go. Uh, Delayed parking took a long time.
It
But
did.
whatever. It took like 40 minutes to get out,
Yeah,
maybe a little
actually,
more
same
even.
for me. But I paid for parking the first time I went to the Patriots game, and it was just as long. So you're not missing out.
Yeah,
But it is a long
yeah, good
time.
enough.
Even
Yeah,
though it was a blizzard, Chandler, I guess it was still sort of busy. So I guess that's some sort of a tribute to it being Matthew
yeah,
Slater's most likely his last game. But regardless,
yes.
Patriots couldn't get it done
Not
for him. They
confirmed.
lose.
Not
Not
confirmed though.
confirmed,
He said he doesn't want to
but
talk about it yet.
definitely seeming so, especially considering all the Patriots sweatshirts with the number 18 captain thing and all that. But regardless, Patriots couldn't win for him. They lose by a score of 17-3. Yes.
Before we move on, uh, just wanted to say on my phone, I just got a notification saying Belichick Kraft met Monday. We were talking about whether they did or didn't.
What
A
we've
report
literally been
just
waiting all day for this, guys. It's 9:13 p.m. by the way.
a report literally just came out saying pair likely to meet again to discuss whether Belichick will be part of the franchise's future via the Athletic. So there was a meeting, it seems. That meeting
Ooh.
was not conclusive, but maybe it doesn't look good for Bill Belichick and the Patriots in the future.
Well, I say we storm through this game pretty fast and get into the subject that everybody's waiting for us to talk about, which is Bill Belichick. So, Chandler, starting with the game on paper and by the eye test, just a terrible offensive performance.
Horrible.
Zappy goes 12 for 30, under 100 yards with only 88 through
Yep.
two interceptions. Trevor Simeon on the other side of things, no better,
57 or
8 for
something.
20 and 70 yards.
70.
I mean, like, this was just a garbage battle between these two offenses. Talk to us about it.
Yeah, so a lot of people in on our team, that was their first ever snow game, and it really showed. But it's the weirdest thing is it felt like it was the coaching staff's first snow game also. They didn't know how to call the game, especially with, and we'll talk about him later, going into the game, who I told my friend who I went with who watches football, but not quite as much as us. Public enemy number one, Vidarian Lowe, playing left tackle.
Oh, Darian Lowe.
I am screaming from the top. I would not be surprised if you could hear me from the TV copy. I was screaming, "Run the ball to the right," because we kept running it in the middle. It wasn't working. To the left wasn't working. We run it to the right. Given it was a holding call, 15 yards. We run it to the right again, 9 yards. I was screaming the entire game. that we need to have some inventive play calling and to stay away from Vidarian Lowe. We finally start to do that. We get a little bit of semblance of working offense, but clearly wasn't enough. That was just a symbol of the complete void of talent in this offense. It was tough to watch. Every time being like, it's going to be a punt, 3-and-out, 3-and-out, 3-and-out. But gosh, I don't even remember what we were talking about. We were talking about
Well,
coaching staff.
you were talking about Vidarian Lowe. He made a big play towards the end of the game.
Yep,
Bailey Zappi, I guess
big hustle play.
this is where things started to get interesting. Bailey Zappi, Patriots down 10-3. Zappi throws an interception. I forget who it was to.
I don't
That
know.
guy
Doesn't
starts
matter.
running it back. He fumbles it like the ball slipped out of his hand like it was like warm butter. Just flies out of his hand. Verdarian Lowe comes charging out of nowhere, dives for the ball, and gets on top of it. Uh, I don't know what he hurt, but he was hurt. He got
Yeah,
taken out of the game. He was hurt bad. I mean, he
yeah, that was
walked out.
a
He
warrior
walked out on his
mentality.
own, but he was down for a while.
Yes.
But regardless, Verdarian Lowe with by far the best play of his career thus far,
Yeah.
saving the game for the Patriots, only for Bailey Zappi to get the ball back. Dude got sacked. It was like a 13-yard sack.
Yep.
Patriots start moving their way down the field. Was it on that drive that they threw the interception or no? We
Yep. Two
punted
pick,
it.
two picks, two no, two picks on the same drive.
Yeah, so there we go. We got the ball back and we threw another interception.
Yeah.
Shout out Bailey Zappi.
Shout out Bailey Zappi. I do remember what I was going to say before.
Yes.
We were talking about obviously you watched the TV copy, I watched the live copy. Very different experiences, of course.
Yes.
Different emphases, whatever the word is. Um, Being in the stadium, there was obviously a lot of emphasis placed on Matthew Slater. There was even, and we'll get to this, emphasis placed on David Andrews. A lot of airtime was placed on him on the jumbotron. Nothing for Belichick. I don't think he went on the camera once.
Yeah.
And I was looking. I was so
Yeah.
high that like the snow was blowing in my face. My head had to be turned to the camera to the jumbotron for sometimes. He didn't come on once. It
the
was
T
really interesting.
the TV experience was different, Chandler, from the perspective of they were flashing to Belichick
Of
every time
course.
there was to stop a play, but no commentators were talking about it. It was like walking over eggshells, the subject.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, Belichick's done so much here, 24 years, not the season he wanted. I don't know what's going to happen. We'll see.
Who were the commentators? Was it Romo?
No, it was the backup squad.
Okay. I
I
wasn't sure if they
forget
wanted Romo for
who.
Belichick's last game.
It was not
Allegedly.
Romo. Thank God. I did
Yeah.
not want Romo in there.
Well, Jim, Belichick's had a long, great career here, Jim.
Listen, Jim. I know Belichick's staying. Like the next day, he's fired.
I like Tony Romo. Let's put it out there. I like Tony Romo. I think he's
I like Tony Romo a
really
lot
good
at the
at what he
start of his
does.
career. He is. I loved him a lot at the start of his career. People started throwing a lot of flack at him over these past couple years. I don't really notice too much of a difference, but maybe it's that the shtick is getting old. I don't know. But regardless, even though Tony Romo doesn't like the Patriots, and
Yeah.
especially not Tom Brady,
No.
I still respect his commentating game. Don't get me wrong. But regardless, Patriots lose. I'm trying to think if there's anything else to touch on besides Matthew Slater's very emotional post game press conference. Um,
Pretty solid defensive performance overall.
oh yeah, I mean again, but
Yeah.
regardless, Jets didn't really have any offensive prowess to
No,
step on with
Brees Hall was
Simeon
good,
at the
but other
helm.
than that, yeah.
Yeah,
Garrett
but
Wilson had a couple really bad dropped passes. Jabril Peppers had that really nice hit on the first drive.
yes,
Um, yeah, other than that, there was not a lot to hoot and holler for.
yeah, and with that, I mean it kind of summed up the boring score of a 17-3 score. We had that stupid long run at the end. I believe it was Brees Hall who ended up scoring. Was it Garrett
Yes,
Wilson
it
or Brees
was.
Hall?
It was
Brees
Brees
Hall.
Hall.
Yeah. He ends up going for the score. That made it 17-3. I was totally wrong in the prediction that I thought it was going to be a defensive turnover
Yeah,
contest. I thought it was just going to be a slosh fest of like, oh my God, the ball's falling everywhere. Like, there's another defensive touchdown. That was sort of a wild prediction, but I mean, still possible in weather
true.
like this.
It was only one
But
fumble, which was surprising, and it was
yeah,
obviously by a defensive player.
yes,
Which to quickly talk about that, horrible coaching by Saleh to
just
create
go
a
down.
culture.
What are you doing?
Exactly that would have been game. And I mean, it obviously was game because we stink, but but it should have been game there.
And I will say, before we move on to the Belichick point, to add a little bit of a sting to all of this, first time the Patriots have lost to the Jets since 2015. We had 15 straight victories against New
Yeah.
York. We take the L this past Sunday. To put a cherry on top of what has been a very disgusting season, something that we kind of held dear as Patriots fans is always owning the Jets. But I mean, it was kind of inevitable that it was going to end, especially following how really the season has gone since that Jets game that we had all the way back in week 3.
Yep.
So, you know, sad
Belichick
stuff.
was the Jets coach for about 24 hours, and it would be semi-fitting if his last game was a loss to the Jets.
Speaking of that, Chandler, it's time to move into this, I guess, excruciating reports surrounding Bill Belichick. Following the game yesterday, he was pretty silent talking about his future. This morning, however, things changed. There was obviously this rumor for weeks now that Belichick was going to be meeting with Robert Kraft and Jonathan Kraft on the Monday following the regular season. That is today. Bill Belichick had his end of season press conference this morning, which we assume was before the meeting. But Belichick said a couple of key points, which are obviously worth discussing before we kind of dive into this recent report that literally came out as we started recording.
Yep.
So, Belichick made reference to his contract, something that he has not done really ever in his entire career. It's always been taboo to discuss Belichick's contract with the Patriots. He said after analyzing the 4-13 campaign this year is disappointing, Bill Belichick said, quote, "I'm under contract. I'm going to do what I always do, which is every day I come in, work as hard as I can to help the team in whatever way I can." So that was obviously a bombshell that he was dropping the fact he's like, look, I'm under contract. So something that we wouldn't really expect. Now, the big sort of report comes in when reporters asked Bill Belichick about the possibility of him relinquishing his personnel authority.
Mhm.
Belichick responds to reporters with, quote, "Look, I'm in for whatever we collectively decide as an organization is the best thing to help our football team. I have multiple roles in that, and I rely on a lot of other people to help me in those responsibilities. Someone has to have the final say. Whatever that process is, I'm only part of it." So, Belichick walking into this morning seeming pretty flexible, Chandler, of how he was going to deal with this whole, I guess, fighting for your job security thing. We all thought entering this report that Belichick was tapped out. I said it last
Yep.
episode. I thought he was done. I thought he wasn't going to be fighting for his job. This report proved us wrong. Why don't you talk about it?
Yeah, so I think that when all is said and done, the timeline of events of the past 24 hours is going to be really important because when I was driving home from the game, obviously, you have on 98.5, no free ads, but you have on the post game, and Belichick sounded like a marked man. I said it. I've been saying it since week 10 that he was a lame duck. Uh, Whether that's the case or not, I think that there's been a little bit of a change of tone potentially. There was a stat that came out today that Patriots, out of their 4 wins, 2 of them were against teams over 500, and the Dolphins, who are the 6th seed in the playoffs, had 1 win over the team over 500 throughout the course of the whole season. So there could be some kind of saving grace. Obviously, he's built up the best possible rapport you could have and the best possible resume in a certain location. But based on how he sounded in the post game conference, and today, very different tones from him. I think
Yeah.
that if the meeting came the before the post game or before the end of season, I think that would lead me to believe that he will be back next year, probably without play calling, without general manager duties. But if it's after, I think that the reports coming out are making it very 50-50 because as we just talked about before, I just got the notification of Josh McDaniels potentially returning to the Patriots, quote unquote candidate to return if Belichick remains in New England, also via the Athletic. All the news is coming out now that we're live,
Right.
which is kind of nice for me.
Yeah, but regardless, Chandler, before we started recording, you and I were very much on the same page of like, you know what? Belichick, it looks like he might be working his way back. Honestly, since maybe after week 10, it's been like a slow progression up for me and thinking like, you know what, maybe Belichick will come back next year, but probably not. All the way up to I think he is actually going to be back next year.
I'm
Even
starting to
much
think so
so,
too.
yeah. But this recent report that you discussed that literally came out as we started talking
Doesn't sound good.
does not sound good. Why don't you read it again? Do you have it in front of you?
Yeah, I can pull it up.
Yeah.
Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Pair likely. So Belichick Kraft met Monday. Pair likely to meet again to discuss whether Belichick will be part of the franchise's future by the Athletic. Um, how do I phrase this? I would still absolutely, if you can get a first round pick for him, good run. Break the record somewhere else.
Oh,
Because he deserves it. Because if somebody wants him that badly, if a team that can win wants him that badly, he is he may be the right man for the job, especially if you can get an inspired general manager in, somebody who's going to
you
work
know
well with
who,
him.
you know who's a top seeker right now of Bill Belichick?
Ziegler.
No, no, like seeker, like looking for him
Oh,
to
the Falcons.
the Falcons.
Yes.
Think he's gonna break the record in Atlanta? I don't.
Hey, they have a lot of weapons. Bijan, Kyle Pitts, Drake London.
Yeah,
If
but
they
they're
can
not
get
gonna
a
be able to
quarterback,
draft a quarterback. If anything, the
trade
Belichick's
for
in a better
Justin Fields.
position.
Trade for Justin Fields.
Boo.
That'd be a hell of an offense.
I mean, it would, but like,
We'll talk about. I have a lot of draft opinions. I've formulated a lot of draft opinions in the past
we will
8
have
hours, but we'll
draft
talk about that
episodes
all the time.
galore coming throughout the offseason.
I
But
won't give you too much of a
to
taste of my Justin Fields takes.
to keep on the Belichick train, I honestly think, Chandler, I really don't know, like, especially considering after this report came out, Belichick came forward this morning with probably the strongest argument we've seen from him this entire
Yeah,
year as to
he
how
wanted
he
it,
should stay. Yeah, it seems like he wants it, which
which we
to
talked about
us is
last week.
promising.
We talked about
Yeah,
last week how we didn't think he would.
exactly. So that to me was like the flip in my head. I'm like, all right, like Patriots should be in on Bill Belichick. If he's fighting for it, we're in. So considering this most recent report, it's just like Kraft is very, I don't know if it's Jonathan Kraft or Robert Kraft or both or neither, who are very much like one must be in on Bill and one must be out. And
Yeah,
honestly, I'm thinking that Kraft Robert is in
I agree.
because similar to Tom Brady, he wanted to hold on to Brady. He had that, I guess, nostalgia factor to keep Tom Brady and pay him and whatever. It seems like he has that same sort of rebuttal for Bill Belichick, although post game and everything postseason so far, like that picture with him and Slater in the locker room, he
Yep.
looks miserable, friggin' miserable. I'm gonna pull it up actually and show it on the camera. But
Good. Yeah, do that.
I mean, as much as I think that it like teeters back and forth between like Robert wants to keep him and Jonathan must be on the boat that's like, I want him out of here. And honestly, like seeing how the Patriots organization functions, you don't really know who's making all these top tier decisions. Do you think it's Jonathan like calling the shots behind the scenes and Kraft is kind of holding like that pedestal, like I'm still the owner, even though I'm old?
I'm gonna draw a comparison. I think it might be kind of like how Matt Groh makes a lot of the decisions and then Belichick signs off on them. I think it's similar to that. And I'm not saying get rid of Jonathan Kraft. I am saying get rid of Matt Groh like yesterday because changes need to be had up there. But while you find, oh, you found it. Okay.
He looks
Yeah, he looks like he's
sad.
going through. He looks like he's going through it. I mean, his team's 4-13. There was a whole report last year or 2 years ago about the Giants owner, Mara. I don't know which one it is. There's been so many. They have owned the team since like the 20s. Um, they had he came out and he was like, "I'm tired of telling my rich friends that why my team sucks." And that's a real sentiment for owners, especially the old guard of owners, when it means so much. And obviously, having won so much and being able to hold that over everybody for so much of your life, literally, like what, a quarter of his life, roughly, little bit, a fifth of his life, whatever he's old.
Uh-huh.
Um, that's wild. And then to have such a quick change, the ebbs and flows of the league, clearly, it makes sense that he's going through it.
Yeah, and it's honestly interesting to me, and it's gonna have to be played out, I guess, over these next couple weeks, even throughout this week, Chandler. We might know by next week the fate of Bill Belichick. I'd
Yeah,
assume that we probably would,
I have something to
but
say
it's
about that.
clear that it's gonna probably take a couple more meetings to decide that. But yeah, you had something to say. What did you have to say?
Yeah, so we were talking about this before, and I did just find the report. Jordan Schultz, whose dad is actually a co-founder of Starbucks, interestingly enough. Yeah, fun fact. Says Titans head coach Mike Vrabel would have quote legitimate interest if New England head coach job if it opened up.
So it was real. You found it.
It was. I did.
Okay,
I have been
cool.
looking the entire episode.
W. Nice. I saw that on Instagram and I could not for the life of me find it again.
Yeah,
And that on top of that, Chandler, Mike Vrabel supposedly had a meeting with Titans ownership that did
didn't
not
go
go
well.
well.
I believe it.
So, I mean,
That team
what
is
seems
dead.
like they're screwed.
Well, Derrick
Henry's going to
Henry's
leave.
gone.
Yeah.
Levis might be good, but they have no wide receiver core. They have like two good defensive players. They stink. We stink, but they stink, and they don't have a draft pick either. We, of
Yeah.
course, got the third pick.
Yes. That's another thing to talk about. We
Yep.
have the third overall pick in the draft. Stupid Commanders uh had
Yeah,
our hopes
they
up.
were winning for
They
a
were
little
up
bit.
10-7,
Yeah.
and then
What was
they
it, like
lose
35
31 to
10,
7.
31
I mean
7,
31 to 10.
31 10. Yeah.
But yeah, what seemed like a dream scenario back at week 11, bringing Mike Vrabel, like that'd be so cool, but it's probably not going to happen. That's what we
I
were
doubt it.
saying. Now it seems like that actually might be like at least a slim chance of having a possibility of actually happening, which is
Maybe.
crazy to think about. I honestly did not think that that would happen. And
I'm, yeah.
yeah, well, I mean, I was going to say if this is it for Belichick, like I'd hope that he just retires because I really don't want to see him going anywhere. But like the Vrabel thing in the back of my mind, although I want to keep Belichick, in the back of my mind, it has me thinking like, it would really be great to bring on Mike Vrabel. Like that could be our coach for the next 10 somewhat years, however the hell long it may
True.
be. So passing up on that opportunity, if it meant another Bill Belichick year, would sting a little bit. So that's something that I'm going to go back and forth on if those reports start to materialize even more.
Yeah. So two things. One, I am currently in the camp of anybody but Gerard Mayo. He has never even
Damn.
he's not even the play caller on defense. Like I don't want
Wait,
him.
what?
No, it's Steve
Oh, it's
Belichick.
Steve Belichick, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Wow.
I do not want him to be the head coach.
Overrated.
Overrated, I'm saying.
Overrated Gerard
Um
Mayo.
maybe he'll be a good head coach. But this goes to my second point, Gerard Mayo and Mike Vrabel. A lot of people will say, and I'll go on a huge diatribe about this, a whole nother episode, I'm sure. I'll give you the real spark notes here. A lot of people talk about, oh, Belichick era's ending. Insert any team that started stinking after their legacy died, like the 49ers after Steve Young left, let's say. Um, I think that the really apt comparison is Alabama in the 1960s and 70s. Their head coach was Bear Bryant. For the next like 30 years, the Alabama University football team just hired former Bear Bryant players to try to bring back that culture. Do you think it worked, Nick?
No.
No, very much so it didn't. So I fear that we will focus too much on trying to keep the culture that worked with Belichick when we've seen that it doesn't work anywhere else if your name is not Bill Belichick. So that's why Gerard Mayo, Vrabel has proved that he can do it. He has his own style. He is a Patriot, but also he didn't play his whole career there. He played in Pittsburgh under Tomlin. He played in Kansas City under, I think Spagnuolo might have been the head coach there at the time. I don't really remember. Herm Edwards, maybe. Um, he's played under a lot of different coaches. We've seen that this Belichick style doesn't work if you're not Bill Belichick. I can run down the Rolodex. I fear that we are going to focus too much on trying to get the next Belichick rather than get the next great head coach whenever Belichick's done, be that this year, next year, or I think that's probably it.
That's actually a great point that you make, Chandler. And because of that, I am reverting back to my original answer of keep Bill Belichick. Because
Yeah,
if it's concerning a replacement, like figure that out after he's gone and replace the culture in that case, because there's no point in trying to replicate it. Because you're right. Although Vrabel may be the closest second place that we can get to Bill Belichick, that will last us another 10 years because the fact of the matter is Bill Belichick probably isn't lasting more than 3 years as the head coach of the Patriots following this year.
Sure.
To try and replicate him and have a B plus performance of an A plus system is just not going to work. And you're
Mhm.
right about that. So
You see it? Another great comparison. I will make this one even briefer because this isn't even the same sport. Manchester United soccer. Alex Ferguson was their manager for like 27 years, was the most successful manager in English history. When he leaves, they're like, hire my friend, David Moyes. Decent manager. He's all right. Gets sacked after like 2 years because they went from winning the league to finishing like an eighth. You can't just try to get 2.0 or V2 of the person who was so successful. You have to be your own person.
yeah.
And I fear that this is a team that may try to live in the past. This is an organization that may try to live in the past rather than forge a new greatness.
Yeah, and that's all. That's hopefully questions that we're going to see resolved by the end of this week. Chandler, we're dropping down to 1 episode a week now that the
Oh yeah.
regular season is over. But don't worry, At the Pylon is going to continue all throughout the offseason and leading up to the draft. So will Chandler's rookie previews.
Oh yeah, this is my time to shine.
You have a big one
Yes.
coming up
Oh yeah, I do. I've been
soon.
saving this one.
Why don't you tell us who it is?
So, in light of all the draft pick situations, I don't know if we'll have the opportunity to get this person. But you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to tell you guys whether we should even want Caleb Williams, quarterback out of USC. Likely number one overall pick, but he could go anywhere from 1 to 3. Obviously, we sit at 3. A lot of scenarios running through the brains of Bears, Commanders, and Patriots fans right now. We'll see exactly what we're going to look at, and I will show you what to see in Caleb Williams.
On top of that, Chandler, we will have episodes for you every week. Um, I'm thinking it's probably going to be Mondays they're going to air.
Probably.
So we'll keep it to Mondays, but keep updated on our Instagram. You can follow us at @the.pylon to stay updated on when episodes go live, what they're going to be about. But stick with us here throughout the offseason because debatably there's more to talk about in the offseason about the Patriots than there was to talk about during the regular season.
Hey,
So
I was telling one of my friends, I love football so much that my favorite part of football is when football is not being played.
Chandler, with
Oh, it's
that,
the off season.
we'll wrap this episode with that banger quote. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Alongside Chandler Betts, my name is Nick Antonakis. We will see you back here next week for another episode of the At the Pylon podcast. Bye, everybody.